This is the Brisbane Lions Fancast with Dom Fay and Mike Whiting. Another win, that brings us to 8 for the year after the match against St Kilda, and many talking points out of that game, Mike.
Yeah, there is, and they're not all good, are they, Dom? Well, the win was really good, and job done. Well, maybe it wasn't a really good win, but the job was done. But I guess the big talking point was poor old John O'Brien with his foot injury, his plantar fascia injury. So that's the one that's been had the tongues wagging early in the week, and I mean, we're not sure of the full extent just yet, but it doesn't sound like great news, does it?
No, there was a bit of a hush around the Gabba when it happened that we all realised we might have just seen this champion play for the final ever time, which is a really sobering thought, to be honest. So hopefully he does. Well, I personally think he will go around another year. That's my gut feel on it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do, and I don't know any more than anyone else than you or by the sound of Michael Voss, he doesn't even know at the moment. So, we're all just guessing and speculating. But personally, I wouldn't think that Jonathan Brown would want to finish that way. And if he does, that's obviously no slight on the guy's character. And we're not going to think, no one's going to think any less of him if that's the way he finishes. But I just think that he won't want to finish like that. He'll want to come back and not to prove it. He doesn't have to prove anything, but to help this team. He hasn't sort of stuck around and persisted for this amount of years to finish up now when it looks like the Brisbane might be starting to turn the wheel a little bit. So yeah. I think he might go on as well, but I guess we'll find out a bit later on.
What we have noticed in terms of on-field form is Black and Maloney have missed a few weeks. Maloney came back for the Port game, but outside that, they've both missed quite a few weeks now. And Rockcliffe and Redden have really stepped up to the plate. 39 touches again for Rocky to continue his midfield renaissance. And how good is it to have Tom Rockcliffe, the gun we knew he could be, back?
Yeah, he's had an unbelievable month, hasn't he, really, since he's been put back in there permanently. And he's always looked to me, Rocky, like when I watch him play, I think he's a really good link player and he works really hard. He finds space really well. But then I look at the end of matches and I just sort of look at his statistics and I look at the contested possessions. I think, geez, mate, I think he had 18 on the weekend. And I think he really gets in and probably does a lot of the grunt work that isn't always evident.
The other positive that I took out of the game was the return of Jesse O'Brien. Now, the last time he played was round 3, 2012 against Freo over there. We didn't have a great day. I think it was up until Melbourne against Geelong this year. It was the lowest inside 50 count in AFL history. So O'Brien returned after quite a few injury layoffs on Saturday night. And we will be chatting to him on the Fancast later in the week, so stay tuned to the Lions website for that. But I just thought he had a really good first game back. His intent was there. His footy smarts were there. You couldn't ask much more from a player who's been gone for about a year and a half.
Yeah, I agree, Dom. I thought he slotted back in pretty well. Like, I expected him to come back in and maybe sort of struggle to find his feet with the pace of the game, the intensity required. And I wouldn't have knocked him for that because he has been out for so long. You'd expect it would take 1 or 2 games. But I thought he jumped in quite quickly. Like, his intent was there. We didn't get to see the best of him as far as his speed and his ball use, although he got outside once or twice there. But there's still a lot of upside to his game, I guess, is what we're saying here. And mate, I was very impressed with him. I think he's a guy that's battling away and he's on the fringe there and he's trying to earn himself another contract and get another stint at the club. And he looked like that desperate player that is playing for his future, I thought.
The other negative, probably, talking point of the game, probably the only negative talking point apart from those final 10 minutes, was we did lose the free kick count again, and Mitch Golby has also been suspended for 1 week in an incident that I think you and I both agree was a pretty fair suspension.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was. I didn't take too much notice, to be honest, on the night, but then when I looked back, I agree with you. I mean, that was fair, and it has to be a worrying trend. You can't just sort of laugh this off or brush it off anymore. The Lions have had a number of suspensions this year. These guys have got to realise how important they are to the team, and that they can't afford to be missing games through silly acts and lack of discipline. So something that has to be addressed, I think, quickly.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The other talking point, which would be completely wrong of us to not mention with this game, was Goose Maguire's goal. I think everyone around the
good was it?
Just had a massive grin on their face, and his celebration as well was one for the ages. First goal, I think, since 2006 for Goose.
Yeah, it had me diving straight away for the stats and the records, and reeling back through the years. None in 2012, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. Oh, 2006. Unbelievable. And what a great goal it was, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was one, I think, a little bit earlier, which would have been a less impressive goal. I think he was running from about 50 and he took the shot.
Yes, that's right.
And he just sprayed it. And he's done that a few times this year, actually, to memory. But it was so perfect for the drought-breaking goal to be a snap from the boundary line after, breaking free of a tackle. And you could see the teammates get around him too.
Against the old team too. It was a nice little bit of a fairy tale for him, wasn't it?
Now, we do go from a bit of jubilation to sadness. Now, many people who listen to the show would know I am quite a massive fan of Patrick Kesus. And earlier in the week, it was broken on your website, afl.com.au, by, I think it was Nick Bowen, saying that apparently he's indicated his desire to the club to return home at the end of the year to Victoria.
Well, I guess this is something that sort of was that reared its head last year, last trade period. There was no secret there from the club. I guess the club's point of view that Patrick had requested to be traded, and that nothing was sorted out. Is that wrong?
Well, I actually spoke to Patrick because I did hear that, and I spoke to him earlier in the year about that when I ran into him. And what he told me was that never happened at all. He said actually quite funnily that he was at home over the off season with his dad, driving around with, I think it was SEN on the radio down there. Heard that Jaden Post for Patrick Kesus was a done deal, and was like, "Hang on, what's going on here?" And apparently got straight on the phone to Rob Kerr to confirm he was still a Lions player. So he said no, that was all made up last year, and he never requested a trade. And he also indicated to me that he had plans to study. He seemed quite settled up here, so I know he hasn't played much senior footy this year, and maybe that's been the big factor. But I am a bit surprised by this, to be honest, if it is true.
Well, I guess we'll see in a few weeks, won't we? So the Lions obviously didn't. I guess they don't want to sort of fuel every single rumour that is thrown out there. So, and that's a club's prerogative. I mean, they don't have to running commentaries on every single rumour about every single player. But I guess Paddy Kesus hasn't had much senior footy. I mean, let's take Patrick Kesus, his homesickness and all that. Let's take that out of the equation. Do the Lions want him, and does Paddy want to stay? Will he be at the Brisbane Lions next year? I guess is the ultimate question, and it's a tricky one to answer. He hasn't played much senior footy. I mean, we're speculating here. You could understand if he wanted to, I guess, explore his options and see if he could get senior footy elsewhere, or maybe the club's got grand plans for him next year in his fourth year to be the gun midfielder that we all hope for. I mean, it's a tricky situation. Yeah,
it has seemed like whenever Vossi or any of the coaches actually have spoken about Pat, they do speak very glowingly of him, and there does seem to be a real enthusiasm for his future. I think he's been, and there's been no secret of this. We even had Gary O'Donnell on the show earlier in the year, and he told us this. He was sent back to the reserves to work on a few things, his positioning and his defensive work and things like that. And so it does frustrate you a little bit as a fan when you hear, on the weekend, again, another 32-touch, 4-goal performance, best on ground, match-winning effort from him, and still he can't seem to force his way into the squad. Now, obviously, defence comes first at the moment in footy mentality. That's no new thing. But from all reports, apparently, recently his tackling and his defensive work has stepped up significantly. I know Lee Harding, the coach of the reserves, was very, very much a fan of Pat's game on the weekend. So I personally, my feel on this situation is that there is the option of going home for him that is clearly in his mind, but I don't think he's made his mind up yet. And I think a lot will depend on the next 4 weeks of the season and how much senior footy he does get to play. Well,
it'll be interesting to see if he does get a crack because, as we just touched on before, Mitch Golby will be absent this week through suspension. So there's one position there. I mean, a lot will depend on the availability of our other midfielders, Brent Maloney and Simon Black. But he might get his chance, and if he does get a chance, you'll have to grab it with both hands. And I guess where these stories originate from and get fueled from is because, by all reports from our reporter in Melbourne, there is interest from at least one and maybe multiple clubs in Melbourne. So I mean, if there's clubs sort of sniffing around, if that's the right term, or they're showing interest in Paddy, I guess these things are going to come up. And he hasn't played much senior footy, so I guess clubs are, at this time of year, clubs tend to look at their future and what they can possibly acquire to bolster their list. And I guess guys that haven't played much senior footy look like pretty good targets and pretty good candidates. But I'd be surprised if Brisbane didn't fight tooth and nail to keep him, whatever the situation. He hasn't played much, but we all can see the class in him and what he can offer at his absolute best. So I'd be surprised if they didn't fight absolutely tooth and nail. And they should be throwing everything to try and keep him, I think.
If Pat does listen to this show, if he does tune in at all...
He'd be a massive fan, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, you'd think so. I mean, I'd hope the fan was neutral, me for him, him for me. But anyway, if he does listen in, I would say you're not going to get weather like we've gotten in Brisbane the past week down in Melbourne very often.
Dom's sales pitch.
No, I make no secret of the fact that I think he's going to be a star, whether that's here or whether that's somewhere else. I think
let's cut it. There's a man crush. That's all right. Yeah, we've all got them, Dom. It's all right.
You've got one on Redo. Okay, so, but yeah, I think that we can hopefully keep him because he adds an element of polish and class to our midfield that almost just rounds it off.
I mean, the fans don't run the club, but they want him to stay. So it'd be nice to. I mean, obviously, when you've put a couple of years into a player as well, and you've seen him develop a little bit, you'd like to see the finished product, and he's far from that. So let's cross our fingers and hope that he stays. Hey.
Yeah, definitely. Now we have almost run out of time to talk too in depthly about the Richmond game, but it is going to be down at the MCG on Saturday.
Richmond, terrific form. They've come off a win against Hawthorn. They beat Fremantle a couple of weeks before that. They're guaranteed of making the finals for the first time in, I think it's 12 years, and second or third time in 30 years. So they're on a high.
Will they drop the ball?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, they're renowned as a club that's a bit unpredictable, I suppose, and they're full of class with Martin, Delidio, Trent Cotchin, even Reece Conker. Like, they've got a lot of class in their team, so they'll be a tough nut to crack. But Brisbane's form, particularly since the bye, has been very, very impressive. So yeah. I'm not ruling this one out.
Well, my best mate Sam, who I work with at B105, he is a passionate Richmond supporter and has had a lot of joy in reminding me this week that Richmond have had the wood over the Lions for a fair while now. Specifically at home, actually. We seem to really struggle to beat them up here. I mean, we haven't played them that much down there, but even when we've been going better than Richmond, it has seemed like they've gotten over the line against us. So it would be really, really nice, poetic justice perhaps, for us to do the same to them this week.
You just want to bag your mate on air. That's all right.
That's very true. I won't lie about that. I'm just hoping, personally, whether it's a win or a loss, that we can get the same amount of effort we've got in the past few weeks and have a close contest on the day.
And Brisbane set the bar there. There's no reason why that effort level would drop now, is it? It's been set at a standard. Not much wavering from this in the past 8 weeks, I think, however many games we've played since the bye. So there's no reason why that effort level would drop.
No, definitely. It will come down to what Richmond shows up and also what Brisbane shows up. So it will be a great game on Saturday. That is all we've got time for on the Fancast today. Stay tuned to the Lions website. There will be an exclusive chat with returning midfielder who just played his first game back, Jesse O'Brien, a bit later in the week. Until then, though, that's us. See ya.
See ya.